Good Friday morning, everyone. We made it to the end of another week, and we have another edition of Pass Rush Friday. And remember yesterday when I was talking about the coverage of our defensive players and saying that it was pretty sad to look at and there wasn't a whole lot to get excited about right now, or at the very least that the holes were pretty obvious? This video is probably even more depressing than that one. Yeah, what did you expect? You guys watched the game on Thursday. You guys watched the game last week. I don't need to tell you guys that we did not get enough pass rush in that game at all to achieve the goals that we wanted to achieve before this season started. And part of that was injuries. We didn't get a whole heck of a lot of snaps from a lot of our key guys. I understand that. But I think that this team, given the resources we've invested into this defense, should have had enough out there to generate some decent pressure on Stafford, and for the most part, they didn't. So let's dissect it. Let's go over the exact numbers and see how bad it was. Let's start with the defensive ends, and right off the bat, we're basically on the choo-choo train to misery because there was one QB pressure from a defensive end outside of Daryl Taylor, who I have listed as a linebacker, but we know he's switching back and forth between the two positions. And the one pressure was from Rasheem Green, who is playing like 50 snaps a game to get that one pressure. And generally speaking, he's overall a very forgettable player. Now, he is up to 7 pressures on the season, which is tied for team lead, but when you look at all the snaps he's playing, that shouldn't really be that big of an accomplishment, to be perfectly honest. So, Dunlap didn't play that much, nothing. Alton Robinson played 6 snaps, nothing. Mayowa played limited snaps, nothing. Kerry Hyder, who I didn't think played a bad game, did not add a pressure. Yeah, Rasheem Green's all we got, and that's not a good position to be in. I don't hate Rasheem Green, but he is the definition of a jag, and when he's the only defensive end on your team getting pressure, it's it's a real problem. And I can't believe how badly this group has collapsed compared to what I was expecting. Okay, now we go to defensive tackle, and we do have a bright spot here. Maybe we have 2 bright spots. I don't know. It depends on your perspective on this. So let's talk about one of the 2 guys who showed up on last Thursday for the pass rush. Poona Ford, probably his best game of the season. 2 pressures, and he made other good plays as well. So he's got a season total up to 5. So Poona Ford, you're not to blame here. Unfortunately, it fizzles out pretty quickly after that. Al Woods, not that this is surprising, did not add a pressure. He's already gone far above and beyond what I was expecting this season. So that's not me criticizing him at all. LJ Collier added a QB pressure. LJ Collier, in limited snaps and mostly ineffective snaps, did find his way to the quarterback one time. I think he even landed a QB hit on Stafford. So I don't know if we're going to see Collier play for the Seahawks again, but let it be known that in what could have been his final game as an active participant for the Seattle Seahawks, he bothered the opposing quarterback once. So, hey, at this point, when it comes to LJ Collier, the standards are pretty low. So I'll take that one QB pressure, and I don't know, I'll bake a cake over it. It's pretty sad how far we've fallen with the LJ Collier stuff, but hey, 1 QB pressure is better than 0. Nothing from Monet, nothing from Kimdichie, who was inactive. So you've got 3 pressures from your defensive tackles. So not counting Daryl Taylor, you got 4 pressures from your defensive line. That's, I don't think I need to tell you guys that that is not the plan. That is not what this team was planning on getting from their defensive line this season. That is not the intention of your defensive line when you have all these investments. It's bad right now. So let's swing over to linebacker here, and there is a little bit of good news. Bobby Wagner had another QB pressure. He's up to 4, which is he's doing all right here. I don't think Bobby's having his best season or anything like that. In fact, against the Rams, I think you could argue he didn't play very well at all. the fact that we can't stop the run to me is a indictment of Bobby's declining skill set at this point. To me, the fact that he's getting targeted in coverage constantly, even though he's holding his own, is indicative of the fact that he is slowing down. But he is getting more pressures than I expected, and some of that is just because he's blitzing more, but he's being more efficient on his blitzes this year, I think. So he's got 4 now. That's cool. Jordan Brooks didn't get any new pressures. Pretty miserable game for him, by the way. He's at 4 still. Daryl Taylor, and wow. In this complete mess of a season defensively for the Seattle Seahawks, Daryl Taylor has emerged as a potential cornerstone blue chipper for this team moving forward. He had another 2 pressures against the Rams, including 1 sack, and this all despite playing like, what, 20-something snaps. He didn't play that much, and he wasn't 100%, but he produced. He's up to 7 pressures this season. Whatever happens this year to this team, whatever happens this offseason, Taylor seems like he's the guy. And nothing else from the linebackers because they didn't play. And that's actually going to close things out. We got nothing from our cornerbacks, which is fine. That's not really part of the plan for this defense. Unfortunately, it seems like it's also part of the plan for Jamal Adams to not get any pressures because here we are, 5 games in. He hasn't gotten a single QB pressure. Not a hit. Not a sack. I'm not even asking for that. I just want pressures. And he can't do it. And it's not entirely fair for me to put that on him. Obviously, it has to do with the way this defense is utilizing him, which is incredibly backwards and antithetical to everything that we know about Jamal Adams as a player and how you're supposed to use him. So, if there's ever a question and a answer on Jeopardy that goes like, this organization was stupid enough to trade 2 first-round picks for a safety who had whose one of his greatest assets was as a blitzer and then decided to just play him as a cover 2 safety, the correct question will be, who is the Seattle Seahawks? Because we have truly done it. At this point, I can say nothing else. We traded for Jamal Adams, gave up all this stuff to get him, and then decided to turn him into Bradley McDougald. And that's it. That's all the pressures we got against the Rams. So you add it all up, 7. 7 QB pressures in a huge game at home against a team that they didn't pass the ball like 60 plus times or anything, but they passed the ball plenty. There were many opportunities to get QB pressure, and you simply didn't do it. Obviously, coverage and pass rush are intertwined. I think we all understand that teams, their coverage abilities feed off their pass rush abilities and vice versa. So it's chicken or the egg right now, right? Like, is our secondary terrible at covering? Is our front 4 terrible at rushing the passer? Blah, blah, blah. But to me, the failures of this pass rush are probably the biggest disappointment with this team right now for me. Even above and beyond something like the offense, because I was expecting the offense to start slow. Even above and beyond something like Wilson getting injured, because that's football. That's the risk you take when you decide to get involved in a sport like football. People get hurt. But this pass rush being this inept, this useless, and I understand we had a lot of guys who were playing at less than 100%. As many as 4 guys took the field with less than their best, but that's pathetic, guys. We're not talking about that Rams game the same way we're talking about the Cardinals game last year, but to me, this was about as pathetic. And through 5 games, we're at 56 total pressures. Yeah, it's not quite good enough, and that's even with the probably significant outlier of getting 18 pressures against the Niners the previous week. So something's got to change. Something's got to get better here. And right now, all I can say is I'm incredibly disappointed, and I feel incredibly disappointed, and I just feel a little lied to because I believed that this defensive line was at least going to be deep enough to generate consistent pressure, and they're not. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Just another disappointment to put on top of the pile.